Broadcasting to you from high atop a mountain of money comes a show that's geared towards entrepreneurship, small business people, and anyone looking for financial freedom. This is Wealth 360 Radio with Stephen Ratliff, the Relentless Capitalist, James Guajardo, the Real Estate Guru, and Jeff Fagan, the Money Master. To find out how you can benefit from their years of experience and success, go to wealth360radio.com. That's wealth360radio.com. Now, brace yourself for a potent mix of advice, knowledge, and straight talk. It's Wealth 360 Radio.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Stephen Ratliff, the Relentless Capitalist. I'm safely ensconced in the war room with my co-host, Mr. Jeff Fagan, the internet maven himself, a man who's not only on the cutting edge, some people say he's the one doing the cutting. Isn't that right, Jeff?
It sure is. Unfortunately, James isn't going to be with us today, so you and I, we're going to have to hold down the fort today, Steve, but I think we're going to be able to manage just fine.
We're going to be able to do it. Now,
you bet.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit about Jeff's background. This guy's been involved in internet sites for some time now. In fact, rumor has it that he was in the room when Al Gore invented the internet itself. Isn't that right, Jeff?
That's right. I was right there. I saw it firsthand.
You saw it in the formative stages, man.
No doubt.
Just think where I would have been if I could have invested in it from day one.
Hey, thank God for Al Gore, huh?
Absolutely. Okay, man, the world's spinning fast, Jeff. A lot's happened since last week. Donald Trump is actually ahead in some of the polls. The race is getting crazy. We're down to less than 70 days before the election. Let me ask you this. What do you think what's the ramifications of a Hillary Clinton presidency versus a Donald Trump presidency? Does it even matter? Is everything so out of whack? The Fed's controlling the economy that it really doesn't matter who's elected president at this point.
And I think that's a great question, Steve. I'm going to turn the tables around. I'm going to turn around and ask you that exact same question.
Well, here's what I think. I think that Hillary is a status quo candidate. I think that she's a globalist. I think that she's for big business. I think that we're seeing increasingly that Washington is a cesspool, and that and that we really don't have Democrats and Republicans in the classical sense. It's more like the what I call the bipartisan fusion party. It's kind of like this hybrid mutant conglomeration, but it's a monopoly. It's a duopoly at best, right? But it's, as I say, the bipartisan fusion party. And we don't know really, who's Republican and who Democrat is. It's really now a question of who's a nationalist and who's a globalist. That's the way I see it. Either you're for nation America first, or you're for offshoring all of our jobs overseas and then re-importing these things, bypassing tariffs and so forth with these crazy trade deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership that's being pushed around D.C. and out into the heartland right now. They're doubling down on their effort to promote this as a trade bill that must be passed for the prosperity of America. But you know what? I'm not so sure. I got a sneaking suspicion that if big business and big government's behind it, that the rank and file citizenry is going to get taken in the shorts yet once again. So Hillary Clinton obviously is a proponent of it. She's kind of backed off lately because she sees that Trump's gaining so much traction. Trump's an unknown commodity, but you know what? From my perspective, I'm willing to take a chance. I'm willing to take a gamble because the Sodom on the Potomac has, the status quo has got to go as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I totally agree as far as status quo having to go. And as far as Washington is concerned, here's my thoughts about this, Steve. And I think every one of our listeners, I really, truly believe this. It doesn't really matter what's going on in Washington. It really doesn't. At the end of the day, anybody listening to our words right now, if they want to become successful entrepreneurs, small business entrepreneurs, that regardless whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, whether it's Hillary, whether it's Trump, it's totally irrelevant who's going to be sitting there doing whatever it is they're going to be doing. If anybody listening to us right now, if they want to create their own freedom and create their own capitalism, and they want to create their own success, you and I both know it doesn't matter who's in Washington. It's up to each person to learn the skills to be successful as an entrepreneur. And really, to me, instead of investing hundreds of hours watching the political debates, if people were to invest the exact same amount of time and learning the marketing skills and the entrepreneurial skills.
They could learn how to propagate prosperity, right?
Totally. And think how much more powerful and successful this country would be if you converted all the amount of time invested in watching politics and they invested that same amount of time in personal growth and entrepreneurship.
Right, absolutely. But you gotta understand how reality works. You gotta kind of understand how the political process, the financial process works, so you can figure out how to engineer your way around it, so you can secure your prosperity in your own little ecosystem, your own little private economy.
You're right, Steve. And you know what? Unfortunately, I think you and I are smart enough to know that it's a trumped-up system. And is there
a double entendre
to a certain extent?
Okay.
But at the end of the day,
that's what Donald Trump has been saying. It's a rigged system.
It's a rigged system, and it's so corrupt at the highest of levels that I think it's insidious throughout the entire political process in all parties and within politics in general. It's pay for play, and don't think the Republicans aren't playing the same game the Democrats are. They all are.
That's why I say the bipartisan fusion party.
It's so corrupt.
I mean, if they had their way, this election would have been between corrupt Hillary and this overripe banana Jeb Bush, right? They kept trying to, just like in 2008 and 2012, we had John McCain, we had Mitt Romney, the two people out of the whole field of Republicans in both those elections that represented the least amount of change. Just they were status quo candidates from the get-go.
You and I both know that these political puppets, I call them puppets, have been bought and paid for. The puppet masters are the major corporations and the major donors that have bought and paid for Congress and bought and paid for these political parties.
Of course.
And all the people that we're voting for are owe allegiance to whoever it is. And so for me, it's
I recall Jay Leno said that all of our congressmen and senators should be forced to wear like NASCAR suits with all their sponsors sewed onto their suits, right?
It would be embarrassing. It would be.
Then we know who's really running things.
And at the end of the day, I mean, politics is a major money making. And think how many different news organizations and television shows and radio shows all evolve around politics. Now, politics in and of itself doesn't create money, but when you create it into something where there's a large viewing audience, where you can now start charging your sponsors a large amount of money.
Yeah, politics and government don't create dang little when it really comes right down to it in the final analysis. Right?
They do. They really do. And I mean, I've talked more about politics with you here in the last 10 minutes than I probably have in, I don't know, the last year.
Okay, enough of that. I just thought we'd talk about politics.
No, absolutely.
Because the important thing is you've got to understand that the government's not going to be here to save you. If you're waiting for the government, that whole social compact has been destroyed with globalism, with immigration, with automation. I mean, the government, I mentioned automation because the government is becoming less relevant all the time, right? I mean, corporations are becoming increasingly relevant. We live in the age of corporatism.
Well, nowadays, thanks to high tech, any person can create their own little corporation that unbeknownst to the rest of the world, nobody knows if they're big, if they're small, or in between. And you know what? I think we're off on a break. What do you think?
Sounds like we're up against the break, guys. When we get back, we're gonna blow the lid off this conversation. We're gonna spin this to real estate. We're gonna talk about internet businesses, and we are gonna open a can of financial whoop ass when we get back.
Let's do it.
You have been listening to Wealth 360 Radio. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's program, go to wealth360radio.com. That's wealth360radio.com to connect with the host and learn the business tips and mental tricks needed to secure your financial future. Now, back to Wealth 360 Radio.
Hi, guys. You're back with Jeff and Steve, the doctors of ducats, the prophets of profit. As promised, we're going to open a can of financial whoop-ass right now. But I got just a quick footnote here. You notice, Jeff, that we've got an empty seat here. James is out making money.
I love it.
He's out, he's out there involved in a deal he says he's going to make $200,000 on.
Sweet.
And I told him, I said, James, you've got to have priorities in life. We've got an obligation here, man. Can you imagine the hubris of that man? He's out to make money, out there working on generating some cabbage, some cheddar,
This is a one-time deal, man. After this, man, he's going to pay big if he's not showing up.
That's right, man. There's no more redos, okay?
No more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, let's talk about how the average guy, the run-of-the-mill Joe Lunch Bucket, Steve Sixpack gets out there and starts making money. Now, you've been working on something you call the Money Machine Express. And in that, you talk about how anybody, an ordinary Joe, can go from zero to hero, right, in as little as 3 years.
That's exactly right, Steve. And you know what? It's something that I really learned over a decade ago. I learned the basic concepts from my buddy T. Harv Eker. You're familiar with Harv, right?
And T. Harv, he's one of the legends, guys. It doesn't come any better than that, right?
And you know what? What he did was he was an entrepreneur that had failed in over a dozen businesses before he finally hit it big.
Man, I've had some setbacks myself, but
we can all relate, right?
The differentiator is who's the guy that can get back up off the mat, right?
Well, it's more than that.
Smack down.
You know, his story is such an amazing one, Steve, because here he is, a guy in his 30s now. The guy is broke. He's living in his parents' basement because he doesn't have a penny to his name. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens that his dad, who does a small amount of real estate developing up in Toronto, has a friend over, and this friend is like one of the wealthiest guys in Toronto. And the friend sees Harv and says to Harv, Harv, if you're not seeing all the success you want in business, all that means is that there's something you still don't know. And after that conversation, Harv went from being a know-it-all to being a learn-it-all.
A learn-it-all, man. I like that.
It was beautiful, man. And what happened more than anything, Steve, was he began to study the most successful business entrepreneurs on the planet. Not only to see what business strategies did they use, but what was their mental makeup.
Man, that mindset's so important, isn't it? It's not just about the methodology. You got to have mindset and the motivational component, right?
Totally.
Otherwise, knowledge is worthless without action.
No question about it. And to his amazement, after about a year of studying the most successful business entrepreneurs on the planet, he identified 7 specific steps. 7 steps that if you knew these steps and you could simply follow the equation, first step 1, then step 2.
Well, lay them on us, brother.
Beautiful, man. So it begins with 2 foundational steps.
Right.
So the first 2 steps are so critical. The first one is belief system. Is it feasible? Then the key word is feasible. Is it feasible for someone to become financially free in 3 years or less? And the more important question is it feasible for you to become financially free?
Yeah,
because wouldn't you agree that your belief system at the beginning of anything you do will determine its success or failure?
Well, certainly that's what's going to give you that initial rush of momentum, right?
Henry Ford said it, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't.
Right.
You're right.
You're right.
Okay, so the first thing is the belief system, and there are 3 things. First of all, you have to believe, do you believe there are people today, Steve? Do you believe that there are people that'll find some kind of business vehicle, whether it's online marketing or a network marketing company or something, where today they're broke, and 3 years from today, they'll have $15,000 a month coming in from their business? Do you think there are people that
some guys that go from broke to $1 million a month coming in 3 years? It all depends on what kind of marbles you're playing with.
Exactly.
Right?
So the question is it feasible that in 3 years you could go from 0 to $10,000 a month of income? Okay.
Sure.
So that's question number 1. Now the second question is it feasible for you? Okay, that's the all-important question.
That's even more important, yeah.
And there are 3 indelible clues that will tell you pretty much whether or not it's feasible for you. The first clue is this. It's called your money blueprint. If you're set for very, very, very low levels of success, I don't care what business vehicle you have, you're going to fail. Because if you're set for failure, you're going to fail.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So your current programming has a huge role to play.
And most of that programming is set in us at such an early age that by the time people are grown adults, they typically have so much baggage, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Most people are just. I mean, they need years of therapy to kind of reprogram their brain for success because when guys come into my office, that's what I notice all the time when you can instill all the methodologies in a person's brain. If they don't believe in themselves, nothing happens. They won't take action.
So this is part of rule number 1. So if they're have low self-esteem, if they're so used to failing that that's what they expect from themselves going into anything, their likelihood of success is going to be very low. So they have to be able to reprogram themselves for higher levels of success. But there are 2 other really good clues. The second one is burning desire. how badly do you really want to become this hugely successful person?
Yeah,
Because if you don't want it badly enough, you are never going to get it.
I saw Grant Cardone say, "You can't. It's not enough to just desire success. You have to demand it. You got to demand it. You know."
And how many people do you know, Steve, that have that kind of burning desire?
Me, man, I got it.
You and me, man. That's why. That's why we love to.
That's why we're sitting atop this mountain of money, as they said in our opening line.
Amen. Because you know what? It takes a certain level of passion and desire that the average person. It's like, do you want to get rich? And most people say, yeah. In other words, like, if you give it to me, yeah, I'll take it. Are you willing to pay the price to become rich and successful? Really, when it gets right down to it, most people are not willing to pay that
lots
price.
of guys aren't willing to pay the price because it involves, what's the old saying? You have to get comfortable becoming comfortable. I think that's T. Harv Ekker's line, right?
Yeah, you got to become comfortable being uncomfortable. You got to stretch the comfort zone,
You got to stretch
right?
that comfort zone.
And then the third thing is whether or not you're willing to learn. That is the biggest thing. There's an expression, every master was once a disaster.
Yeah.
In other words, everybody who's fantastic at something today, they didn't start out that way.
Nobody does, right?
Nobody does. But
except for that little Chinese kid that had a violin in his crib, and he picked it up and just immediately he was playing Mozart, right?
There's always like 1 in a billion that just have. But for the most part, you know what? The great thing is that entrepreneurship and sales and marketing and all these things are learnable skills. You know that, Steve. I know that. If you learn from the masters how to become great at sales and marketing and entrepreneurship, you can learn every single thing you need to learn.
Right. It's not exactly rocket surgery, is it?
It isn't. The only question is, are you willing to take the time and invest in learning from the best?
But what do you people? What is the main holdback for people? I mean, if you set up a learning modality for, like sports. If you had a sports training camp, I mean, you could charge folks whatever you wanted to, and people would be working hard at it. But if you start a success academy, people are saying, "Oh, that's never going to work. You can't do that." I mean, why are people so resistant to the idea that other people that success is trainable? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I think it's been programmed into a lot of people, and unfortunately, I think that for some people, they're so set in their old programming that no matter, you could take 50 sticks of dynamite and you're not going to blow them into a new mindset. They're just stuck in their old way.
If you want to learn to play basketball, you go to a basketball court, right?
Absolutely.
If you want to become a bodybuilder, you go to the gym and start lifting weights. But when guys, you start talking, hey, I'm being trained for success at XYZ Success Academy, guys say, "Oh, that's a scam. I mean, what are you doing, man?" That just amazes me.
And I saw that firsthand, Steve, from a very unusual perspective, because when I was helping my buddy T. Harv build Peak Potentials training.
Right.
We would literally have 2,000-3,000 people per weekend for our events.
Mm-hmm.
Well, out of 2,000 or 3,000 people at our events, how many of them actually do you think became millionaires as a result of the training?
Probably 1 or 2%.
Okay, was it because the material that they were learning during that period of time was invaluable, that there was flawed information?
Right.
Or was it because the people that were taking in the material?
It's because people can't implement because of their internal scripting says that, hey, I'm a loser despite the fact that I've learned this information. I can't act on it for any one of a number of reasons, right?
Precisely, exactly. So, so they say, well, I went to the seminar.
And it's supposed to just magically happen someday, man.
Yeah.
Guys talk about they got someday syndrome. It's magically going to happen. I got to tell you, as you know, someday's that mythical place where everything's going to come to fruition that you've been planning for years and years. But the problem is that someday keeps going on. As time wears on, someday also wears on deeper and deeper in the future. And that someday never comes. And we see that all the time.
So this is why this is foundational rule number 1 of the 7 foundational rules on your way to financial freedom in 3 years or less.
Okay.
You've got to have this burning desire, this belief in yourself, and a willingness to learn that's unlike anything you've ever had before. Now, the second foundational step is this. It's called the law of income. And the law of income says that you will be paid in direct proportion to the value you deliver according to the marketplace. It's a very, very simple rule, but it's a very strict rule. In other words, if you don't deliver a lot of value,
yeah, of course,
you're not going to get paid a lot of money.
You got to deliver some value.
Do you know
you got to give before you can get, right?
The number one problem most small business entrepreneurs have? They don't deliver enough value to get rich.
Right.
They barely deliver enough value to get by.
Right.
So they have to understand what this is all about. And we'll get back into it right after this break.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. Guys, hold on. We'll be back right after this with Jeff and Steve, and we're going to continue to talk about this, the 7 pillars of success and the money machine.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Okay.
All right.
You have been listening to Wealth 360 Radio. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's program, go to wealth360radio.com. That's wealth360radio.com to connect with a host and learn the business tips and mental tricks needed to secure your financial future. Now, back to Wealth 360 Radio.
Okay, everybody, we're talking about how to go from mundane to magnificent in 3 years or less, right, Jeff?
That's exactly right. There's a formula, and all you got to do is stick to the formula. Just that simple.
Yeah, why go off script if it's a formula, right?
Absolutely. There's a way for anybody, and I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're male, female. I don't care if you're young, old. I don't care if you're good looking, not good looking. I don't care if you're unable to get out of your bed. If you have a brain, you can be successful.
Good looking always helps, Jeff.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Come on, man. Okay, we just went through 3 actionable steps. Let's go to number 4. What's the 4th step in the money machine matrix?
Okay, so actually what we've done is we've actually covered the first 2 fundamental steps. The first one being that you have to have the right mindset,
right.
And the second one is you have to deliver massive value. Okay, delivering massive value, that's the law of income, all right? So, in other words, I don't care what you choose to get into. If you want to become a wealthy, successful person, where's all that money going to come from? Other people, right? I mean,
right.
the only place money can come from is from other people. So, unless you're delivering massive amounts of value to other people that they consider value, right? And notice I didn't say produce, I said deliver.
You're going to be paid over time in direct proportion to the amount of value you create in the marketplace.
So actually, let me correct you there. It's not what you create, it's what you deliver. Because people create stuff, but if they don't deliver it, they don't get paid.
There you go.
On the delivery, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you provide the product or service and you get paid.
I guess you could argue that unrewarded genius is almost a proverb, right? It's a cliche in today's society.
It totally is. So,
and I've seen plenty of educated derelicts.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of them, you'll see them in the libraries or many of them in the university libraries. I mean, that's just the way it is. So the point is if your mindset is whatever business I'm going to get into, I have to deliver massive value, you begin to start thinking like an entrepreneur, because to deliver massive value means you have to excel at the areas of sales and marketing.
Right.
If you're not selling in marketing, you know how much money you're going to be earning? Nothing. I don't care how good your product or service is. It boils in any business.
Right. Marketing is a key skill set. I think who was it that said that a good marketer never goes hungry?
And you know, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember who had said that. It's a great quote though, because it is
Milton
true.
Friedman.
Was it? It could be, but the point is
Paul Drucker.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But the point is, so if you have the right mindset to begin with. So in other words, you're willing to learn, you have a burning desire, you believe it's feasible, you can become financially free if you find the right vehicle. And the second thing that you have as a foundational principle is, I'm going to learn how to deliver massive value to the marketplace. Mm-hmm. Then the third thing is timing, being in the right business at the right time. Now, there's a thing called trends. And, you know, if you want to earn a lot of money...
Let's not go there, Jeff. You know, trends, I mean, that's talked so much this day and age. Yeah. Come on, this is a business show.
So if you want to make a lot of money in a short period of time...
trends. I'm sorry.
Trends. Okay. Yeah, okay, right. So if you want to make
I thought you were going that Target that Target changing room thing. I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
So if
my mistake. Who knew?
Who knew? So what are the world's biggest trends? So and you know, I love the analogy of imagining that a trend is like a wave in the ocean.
Right.
Okay. So there are constantly new trends, you
just got to get out in front of it and ride it like on a surfboard.
You sure as heck do, right? So the whole point is if you want to create a lot of money in a short period of time, where is there already a huge demand? Where's already a huge demand?
You want to get out in front of a trend that's cresting or coming in with a nice big head of steam.
And what you want to do, Steve, is you're looking for what's called a GFO, which stands for A ground floor opportunity.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I thought I saw one of those. I was up on the Mogollon Rim the other night. I saw something buzzing across the night sky.
And the beautiful, I don't need to tell you why you want a ground floor opportunity, because when you're talking about value in the marketplace.
But do you really need a ground floor opportunity? Because, I mean, lots of guys specialize in, look at some of these private equity guys. You know, there's money to be made just in in the Rust Belt.
If you're not starting with a lot of money, and your goal is to create financial freedom quickly, you want to go where there's a ton of demand already created.
So you get that momentum going from that.
You don't have the money to pay to create the demand if you're starting with ground zero. It costs money to create demand unless you're already going somewhere where the demand is already there. Now, the reason you want to get in at the beginning is if we had more time and we would have talked about the factors that determine your value in the marketplace. Two of the factors, Steve, one of them is this word demand, and the other one is supply. And real quickly, let me talk about demand and supply.
Okay.
Demand means how much do people want your product or service, and equally important, how much are they willing to pay for it? Right? That's the important thing.
Yeah, of course.
How much do they want? Okay, supply is how much of your product or service is already out there in the marketplace that people can get access to immediately. So if there's a huge demand for what you got and people are willing to pay for it, and there's not very many people out there selling it, you've got the ideal situation. High demand, low supply, you're the provider, you rake it in big time. This is how it works.
What about efficiencies of operation? Is that coming up? I mean, you got to be able to produce your product.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to that. Yeah. But before you produce your product, you got to pick what's your business vehicle. How am I going to earn my big bucks over the next 2-3 years?
Right.
Okay. Well, once you've identified the trend, you say, oh, you know what? The internet's getting big. E-commerce is getting big. You know, the amount of money people are spending on the internet is becoming in the trillions. Maybe I want to get myself in front of that huge pile of cash that's globally being spent every day on the internet, and I want my piece of that action.
Right.
Okay. So you've identified it. So now you move on to the next step, which is step number 4, which is called systemization. How do I create a business system that can run without me, that makes me a profit in this area?
Yeah, who wants to be tied to the desk 24/7, 365?
You don't. The goal of creating a business.
I'd settle for 26, 310. How about that?
But the point is, you and I, what we're going to do is we're going to build a business system that eventually can work without me, that solves people's problems.
You've got the system in place, and that's the you've mechanized your business. Then if you're off in Tahiti, you're off down in Bora Bora, hanging out with friends, having a Mai Tai or.
Here's the problem. Do you think most people know how to systemize their business, or do you think most people do the business themselves and they're not really business owners, they're just self-employed people?
I think most people buy themselves a job.
That's
right?
exactly what they do. They call themselves business owners, but they don't even know what a business is. They don't know the first thing about how to systemize their business.
Right.
They don't know the first thing about all that stuff. And the problem is that their business is them, and when they're not working, guess how much money their business is earning?
Zippo. Nada. Goose egg.
So the goal is to train yourself. You know the cash flow quadrants as well as I do, right? Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrants. On the left-hand side are all the employees and self-employed people earning next to nothing. This is 95% of the people earning 5% of the income, whereas you and me, the entrepreneurs of the world and the investors of the world, we represent 5% of the population earning 95% of the income. If you were going to train someone who's stuck in the E or S quadrants, don't you want to train them to move over to the B quadrant and learn how to create business systems?
Absolutely.
This is what we're talking about here, that over the next 2 or 3 years, anybody with the right training can learn how to create business systems. Now, once you create a business system, now you have something, and the definition of a business system, Steve, is a repeatable process that produces a profit.
An ongoing profit, so you can hang out and enjoy life with friends, right?
That's exactly
Hanging
right.
at the beach.
That's it, baby. That's what a business system is all about. Now, do you think most people are figuring out how to create an automated business system that creates a profit solving other people's problems?
I think people are just scrambling to pay the bills, most folks. So the goal is you got to have a system, but you got to be able to implement your system, and that means that you got to have a plan. Otherwise, you're going to end up working for the man.
You sure do, man. No doubt about it. But that leads us to the next step. So far, what have we done so far? We've covered a lot of territory in a very short period of time. We have people with the right mindset. Very important. If you don't believe you could actually become financially free in 3 years or less, chances are you won't. You've got to believe it's feasible for you.
Right.
Number two is you have to have that marketing mindset that you're going to deliver your value to literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there in the marketplace. Number three is you found the right niche at the right time. The demand is there. The demand is high. The supply is low. You can get in at the beginning where you can make a lot of money.
Then you got to implement,
and then you got to systemize, right? So systemize is number four. Now, once you have a system that works, if it works, what do you want to do? You want to do it again and again and again. So the fifth step is called duplication. So first, you got to find the right system and spend all your time building the exact right system that you know.
The point is, the takeaway here is you don't need to innovate. You just need to duplicate.
You
right?
do. So once you find the system that works, if you're currently serving 100 people, how do you ramp it up so instead of serving 100 people, you can serve 1,000 people? If you're currently serving 1,000 people,
you buy another McDonald's franchise?
You duplicate.
Okay.
You duplicate.
You buy that second franchise, you're flipping a lot of burgers, but you're not flipping the burgers because you got kids doing it, right?
The best example I can think of, Steve, and you know this as well as I do. You know this guy Sam Walton, right?
Right.
Okay, he started a business called what?
Walmart?
Yeah. Now think about this real, just a simple example. Here's one guy. He starts off with.
He did that in the back of a pickup truck.
He starts off with one small store in one small town, making one small profit. Right?
Bentonville, Arkansas.
Okay. Now, at the beginning, he had to be in the store in order for the store to operate successfully.
Right.
But within a short period of time, he had systemized the entire operations of the store that the store could operate whether he was there or not.
Have you seen the operations room in Walmart? I mean, the central command. I mean, this thing looks like NORAD. I mean, it looks like Houston, the ground control at the moon launch. I mean, it is crazy, man. The monitors. I mean. I saw a video on that, and it just blew me away. The logistics they're masters of.
Very cool,
guys. That tells us that we are up against a hard break. We're going to be right back after this. We're going to talk more about business. We're going to finish the money matrix, the money
machine express.
Machine. I like that matrix, man.
There you go.
But we'll be right back and finish this out. Thanks so much.
You have been listening to Wealth 360 Radio. If you have any questions or thoughts about today's program, go to wealth360radio.com. That's wealth360radio.com to connect with a host and learn the business tips and mental tricks needed to secure your financial future. Now, back to Wealth 360 Radio.
Okay, everybody, we're back for our final segment. We're talking about how to go from mediocre to business monster. Jeff's sharing with us his business secrets. He calls it the Money Machine Express.
It is. It's 7 steps. And Steve, you know as well as I do.
7 steps to lots of ducats.
7 steps to financial freedom. That's exactly what it's all about. And when we left off just before the break, we were talking about this thing called duplication. We were talking about Sam Walton.
Right.
And we were talking about the fact that here's this guy. He starts off with one small store in one small town making one small profit. First with him in the store, and then he was able to systemize the way his business ran. And then once he had that business system that worked without him, then what did he do? He duplicated that same store again and again and again and again. So he didn't have to recreate anything. Once he had one thing that worked, and this is the important thing for all of our listeners to understand. Everybody just needs to find one thing that works and then just duplicate it again and again and again and again.
You're just one idea away from living it on Easy Street the rest of your life. Right?
Everybody is. Absolutely.
You just need one great idea, man.
One idea.
Now,
so duplication is the way that you take your one little money machine that you created. You had this one store, this one idea, this one website, right? Okay, and now you're going to duplicate this one little money machine again and again and again and again and again and and again and again and again and again. And this is
again.
and again. And so there's no limit. That's how chains grow into the thousands. That's how people are able to grow. That's how people can scale if they have a system.
That's right.
That's why they need a system.
So the takeaway is minimal expectations yield minimal results, but massive expectations yield massive maximundo results, right?
Totally. And then smart guys like you and me, we understand the sixth step, and the sixth step is this word called leverage.
Yeah, baby. You got to be able to leverage up, right?
You got to leverage big time.
So you can scale up, right?
And most people don't even have a clue what in the world leverage even means. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to leverage systems. They don't know how to leverage money. They don't know how to leverage information. They don't know how to leverage products.
Right.
They don't know how to leverage the media.
Right.
They don't know how to leverage anything. There is nobody I've ever met in my entire life that became wealthy that didn't understand and use this word leverage.
Right.
And when, like, for example, if you have an affiliate program and you can get 15 or 20 or 30 other people out there selling your product for you, man, that's leverage. I've seen leverage in the multi-level marketing industry. That's huge leverage.
If leverage came in a bottle, we'd all be rich, right?
Ain't that the truth, right? And this is where, when you begin to start thinking like an entrepreneur, and you begin to understand how you can leverage the media. If you can do a cheap press release and that,
look at Donald Trump. Here Hillary spent $60 million or $70
million.
He
leveraged the media like crazy.
I mean, the guys just played the media. They hate him, but yet they report on everything he does. And he figures, he loves oppositional marketing too. He even figures that bad press is good press because it keeps him in the limelight. And here he is by LA Times poll. He's 3 points ahead of Hillary, and he hasn't spent squat yet.
And you're absolutely right. And I think when it comes to leveraging the media, Donald Trump is probably the best example I can think of, because he's literally been given millions upon millions of dollars of free publicity. Billions.
Okay. Love him or hate him, man. You got to agree that he's got some
no doubt
some leverage moxie.
And then the seventh step. So we've gone through 6, and then the seventh step is personal development.
Give me that. You've got to spend as much time on personal development as you do on. You got to spend as much time on the inner game of success as you do on the outer game.
You
right?
do, absolutely,
that.
and that's
same kind of intensity, the same kind of
totally
discipline.
And that's why on a daily basis, Steve, I have a live call-in telephone call. I call it my daily Jeff Fagan Street Smart Success Call.
Oh, that's good.
And it goes live Phoenix time from 7 to 7:20, and it's exactly this kind of stuff to pump people up and activate their minds first thing in the morning. I want to share it with everybody so everybody has that number.
Let's hear the call-in number, buddy.
Yeah, it's 712-432-0460. Again, it's 712-432-0460, and then you have to enter the access code, which is 131237. It's a totally free call. I have a ton of listeners that listen to it live. I also have a recording. I can give the recording number at another time. But anybody that's totally into this...
let me just tell folks, that's a potent mix of motivation, mindset, and methodology, right?
Amen, bro.
It's all right there.
That's exactly right.
Boom, boom, boom.
And Steve, why don't you share a little bit about what you got going on as well?
Well, I am the Relentless Capitalist. You can visit me at relentlesscapitalist.com and find out a little bit what I do. I show people how to excel in business and in real estate.
I know you do.
I've got a 37-year career in real estate, venture capital, and private equity. So I know a thing or two about making some money. You can also catch me on Facebook, Stephen Ratliff. I'm the guy with all the fans, so I'll be easy to find. If you type in Stephen Ratliff, I go right to the top, and I've got a bunch of videos where I rant and rave on anything from politics to whatever is on my mind that particular day. But mostly it's about inspiration and motivation. Again, the 3M, as I call it, M3, if you like, motivation, mindset, and methodology. And I have a passion for helping entrepreneurs out and showing them how to make money, because I've been blessed, and I feel like at 57, it's time for me to give something back. And I think I stand taller when I've lifted someone else up and they're up on my shoulders. So.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. I think that's why it's such a pleasure to work with you on this show. I think we're both coming from exactly the same place.
Well, very good. I think we're just about out of time. Jeff, you got any parting thoughts? Any last little piece of wisdom you can leave our folks with?
Yeah, I do. And really it's this. In fact, in all of my morning calls, I remind everybody, be a warrior. No matter how many times life knocks you down, get right back up again.
Okay, guys, that's all we have for today. Jeff and I are not omnipotent, all-knowing masters of the universe, but we are darn close when it comes to business, finance, and things of that nature. So God bless, good luck. We'll see you next time.
Amen. Great job.
You have been listening to Wealth 360 Radio, an hour dedicated to you, the entrepreneur, the small business owner, and anyone who is looking to learn the steps necessary to achieve financial freedom. To find out more or get in contact with the host or any of the guests you heard on today's program, please visit wealth360radio.com. That's wealth360radio.com. Download the Wealth 360 Radio app for your Apple or Android phone, or find us on moneyradionetwork.com. Thank you for listening to Wealth 360 Radio. And remember, the poor want to be rich, but the rich want to be wealthy.